From the newsroom of the Bryant College Station Eagle, this is the Brazos Sports Prepscast. And now, the Eagle High School sports team, Alex Miller and Jake Weiss.
What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Brazos Sports Prepscast. I'm Alex Miller with the Eagle, joined always by Jake Weiss and Andrew Tenio. What's up, Andrew?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Doing all right, and I think I just butchered the pronunciation of your last name, didn't I?
What did you? What
Did I say Tenio?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Hey,
You didn't butcher nothing, buddy.
hey, there we go.
Hey, well,
And there's the Weister Bunny. What's up, my guy?
Yeah, doing good, man. Good to be back.
Hey, did that Tamiflu work for you?
Yeah, it did actually. Yeah, I hope it. Yeah, I took all 10, so.
Well, I'm glad you're back here with us in person this week. We missed you. Jake's going crazy.
Oh, sorry. Took my jacket off.
The quarter sip. All right. Well, hey, we're talking about the serious stuff this week. Jake, we teased this a few weeks ago when we got Cease on the podcast. We're going to rank our personal top 5 mascots in the Brazos Valley.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I've been thinking about this on and off, not every day, but pretty much since that we had Cease on, I was like, you keep telling me we're gonna do it eventually. So sometimes it's kind of like when you sometimes wake up and you're like, oh, I have homework to do. Like sometimes I just wake up, I'm like, oh, what are my top 5? Like I gotta think about that.
So
Is this the week?
we've got some criteria. Okay, so we could only pick from mascots who are the only ones in the Brazos Valley with this nickname. So there are some that you won't see because there are duplicates. So first, let's play a little trivia. How many different mascots are there in the Brazos Valley? We have 28 schools that we cover for football.
Andrew, you want to go first?
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's throw the new guy under the bus.
exactly. Sure.
I'm gonna throw out a number. I'm gonna go with 13.
13? Okay. Jake?
That's a good guess. How many? What's the question? Can you repeat the question?
How many different mascots are there in the Brazos Valley? We cover 28 teams.
The wheels are turning.
Yeah, they really are. This is not it's a good thing we're not on radio because this would be dead air. But
Come on, Jake. Spit out a number.
12?
12?
I don't know.
The answer is 18.
Oh, what the heck?
The answer is 18. What's the most popular mascot in the Brazos Valley?
Gotta be Eagles.
I was
Okay.
gonna say Panthers.
Panthers? Eagles is the right answer.
Oh,
there are
right.
5 teams with Eagles. Can you name all of them? No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
Brazos
Hey,
Christian, Lexington
Panthers,
Wood.
there are 2, right? We
Okay.
got Normandy and we got Burton.
Okay.
All right. Enough with the trivia. Hey, there's 13 standalone mascots in the Brazos Valley. So let's get into our top 5. Let's start number 5. Andrew, what's your number 5?
I am gonna go with a simple one, yet I really like it. And there's not many of them. We're going with the Rudder Rangers.
Okay.
I like the Rudder. It just comes out really well. And obviously Rangers, to me at least, as a high school nickname, it's a little unique in my opinion. So the Rudder Rangers.
Hey, there's a lot of historical context behind that mascot. Did you know that, Andrew?
Again, as a newbie, I'm trying to learn everything, but I may not know all of it.
So General James Earl Rudder, his team of Rangers, part of D-Day, climbing the cliffs out on Normandy. So they were some of the first ones out there. So there's some historical context to that one.
The more I know,
that's
yes.
a good pick. That's a good pick,
Thank you,
Jake.
thank you.
What's your number 5?
Oh, hoping we would go in. I went 1 to 5 in my head.
Oh, boy.
I also am a little surprised by the 13 standalone because I was trying to do it over lunch and I was like, we don't have that many standalone. Like this should be easy. So I'm gonna go with Snook Blue Jays though.
Blue Jays.
Yeah, I like the Blue Jays. This is a mascot. I mean, we only have one, so you don't hear it very often. So that was my number 5.
I tried to look up the history behind Blue Jays. I tried to look up the history for some of these, and I couldn't figure out why Snook is the Blue Jays. But there you go.
All right, there we go.
All right, my number 5, I'm going with the Yeoman of Cameron. So CHO, he gave money to build a new school building for what was the dilapidated building back in the 19 teens. And so he died before the school was able to open. And so, they named the school after him, and they called themselves the Yeomen. So
know that.
in case you were ever wondering why Cameron Yo is the Yeoman, that's what I found on the interwebs. So
I was about to
shout
ask
out
what
to
a yeoman
Google.
was, so I'm glad you covered that.
Okay, my number 4. I'm going Rangers. Number 4. So we were on the same line of thinking, and I'm a big history buff, and I'm a local guy, so you gotta like the local historical connections. So got a lot of respect for whoever decided to name the Rudder High School mascot the Rangers. It makes sense too. Jake.
All right, number 4 for me. I cheated. I will fully admit, folks. I cheated on this one.
Jake.
Not again.
I looked at your paper.
Not again.
So I'm gonna go Navasota Rattlers.
Rattlers.
Minnesota Rattlers. Yep.
Rattlers, number 4.
I like that one. Yeah.
I am. I'm glad that we had all of our picks for number 5 were all unique. But I think we're gonna start running into each other a little bit. I have got the Snow Blue Jays as my number 4.
Number 4, Blue Jays.
Yes.
All right, what's your number 3, Andrew?
I'm gonna go with the Anderson Shiro Fighting Owls, and it's not
Ooh.
just the owls; it's the fighting owls. It's the emphasis on the fighting that really got me. That I'm like,
Does-
you know what? All right.
Does that make the owl a bird of prey in that circumstance?
You know what? I don't know. I'm gonna have to talk to.
Because I don't think a blue jay is a bird of prey.
No.
Eagle definitely is.
Yes. I don't know if it's fighting, if it really counts as that, but it's something. I
Hey,
could ask.
they've been fighting this season.
They have, yes.
They have. We've talked about them a
very
lot on the show.
Yes.
So
Got that win against Newton.
they Newton.
I mean,
I was about to say.
New Waverly.
I was like, tap the brakes there, pal.
Yeah. New Waverly.
All right, what's your number
Number 3.
3, Jake?
All right, so the next 3 picks for me, I kind of Mike Leached this. I'm sure we've all seen that video, where he's talking about the Pac-12
R.I.P.
mascots who would win in a fight.
So
So
I like that.
I'm kind of doing a little homage to the late great Mike Leach here.
R.I.P. in
R.I.P.
peace, the pirate.
Exactly.
We don't have pirates, but that would have been a fitting one.
Exactly, yeah. But no, so number 3 for me, I went with Somerville,
Ooh,
the Yeegaw.
the Yewas.
Yeegaw.
yeah,
Oh,
well,
I say it wrong every time.
I'm glad
Yeegaw.
they were on my list, but I'm glad I didn't say it.
Yeah, so number 3 for me, because if you look, if you go on the site, you sometimes I know we asked. I think it came up with Cease. He asked or you asked.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it? It is. Well, if you go on Max Preps, it's a Native American. It's an American Indian. So I was kind of thinking to myself, like these next couple picks, I'll explain it as we go along, everybody. But yeah, just for now, no, that's my number 3.
So my number 3 is also the Yewas. We were thinking on the same note, or you just looked at my paper.
No,
again.
no.
But so I've learned that Yewa is a Spanish term for horse.
Okay.
So fun fact. And if you drive through that area, there is the Yewa Creek, which was named by Spanish settlers, several centuries ago, because they found some wild horses down on the creek bed. So it's Horse Creek,
my
but in
gosh.
Spanish.
So was the mascot a horse then?
I guess so.
Oh well, Max Preps lied to me then.
Or it could have like a Mustang
The
in a
profile
sense
picture
because
on
of
the
kinds
Preps.
of horses. So I don't know.
Yewa sounds cooler than Mustang, though.
It does.
No offense to our friends that are Mustangs over at
Madisonville.
Madisonville
No
or
offense.
BV Chia. Isn't Mumford the Mustangs too?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They don't play football though. Okay, number two, the Vikings of Bryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 2, I got the Vikings of Bryan.
It felt that one felt like almost a little too obvious, but it's also it's unique to me in a sense as well. So I like that pick.
Okay, Jake.
Number 2, the Vikings, because the Viking would beat Awa in a fight.
So I texted one of my buddies, Andrew, who went to Bryan High, and I said, "Hey, do you know why Bryan's nickname is the Vikings?" And he was like, "Well, I used to joke and tell people that Vikings settled this area, but that is not a true story.
Oh.
So I wish it was, because that would sound way cooler. But I don't know why Brian is the Vikings.
Man, you should have just made that one of the trivia questions. I would have believed it, like true or false. Like true or false. I'd be like,
We know who's the gullible one
yeah,
of the
like,
group.
It's true. Like,
Andrew, what's your number 2?
So am I getting 2 and 1, or are we?
Yeah, go
wow.
number 2 first.
All right,
Go
all
number
right.
2 first.
Well, I'm taking yours because we're gonna go with the Cameron Yeoman.
Okay.
I grew up in Waco, for those that aren't aware, and I went to school at Robinson, and Robinson played Cameron Yo quite often. So it was one of those that, like, I was ready to play the Yeoman. I was excited. Always,
Hey,
so.
Robinson has a cool mascot. They're the Rockets.
The Rockets, very unique. I think they've maybe one other team. If not, they're the only team in the state that are named the Rockets.
That whole district in general, right now at least, has some great mascots. You've got the Yeomen, you got the Rockets, you got the Bees of Academy.
oh yeah.
Little River Academy. They're like the bumblebees.
Yeah, bumblebee.
And then Troy is the Trojans, of
Trojans.
course. Lorena Leopards.
The Connolly Cadets.
Colony Cadets.
So there's some unique ones
Yeah.
in that area. And then my number 1 is the Yewas.
Okay.
That had to be the number 1. I was looking and I'm like, there's no other names that I could really see that would touch it, in my opinion. But you guys, with your number 1 picks, could definitely change my opinion.
Jake, what's your number 1?
Number 1, Rudder Rangers. 'Cause
Okay.
the Ranger would win in a fight over all the other mascots.
Would
at
it?
this game.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
A Ranger has a gun, so it would beat the Viking and the Yewa.
Okay.
I guess that's a
Yeah.
fair point.
There's other things you could use.
I
but
love
mean,
the
that
Mike
works.
Leach logic.
Exactly, yeah. But, like my first 3 were Mike Leach logic.
Hey, my number 1, I'm going with the Navasota Rattlers.
Okay.
Nice.
I teased this. This actually started when I went and covered Navasota versus Madisonville. And if you go out to Rattler Stadium, they've got a huge statue of a rattlesnake outside the stadium, and it's like all coiled up and like in its little striking position, you know. So, fun fact: Navasota, their junior high mascot is the Fangs.
Ooh.
In the 3 elementary schools there, they got the Sidewinders, the Boas, and the Vipers.
That's pretty
So
cool.
cool.
So I kind of like the the serpentine theme they got going on over there at Navasota ISD.
That's unique.
They got it figured out.
Yeah.
So at every level, you're a snake basically.
Yeah. Well, hey, that was a fun little exercise, wouldn't you say?
I would say so.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Cool.
I learned more than I thought I would, especially from Mr. Historian Alex Miller over here.
That's it.
I
He's
love
the one
it.
we
I
learned
love
stuff
it.
from.
That's true.
All right, let's get into the real action, okay? We got some
All right.
games to play this week. Let's start with Brian. They travel to Pflugerville Weiss. This is a big one for the Vikings, of course. They're playing for first place in District 12 6A. But, Weiss, they're a big favorite, even though Brian's been rolling the last couple weeks. They had that week off, of course, last week, the bye. And, Jake, I think you went out and talked with Coach Tullis. Just what's kind of the vibe check over there at Bryan High?
Yeah, it's a battle between 2 undefeated teams in district this week. Weiss, Brian, and he said, kind of it's going to be big stage, bright lights. I mean, the field's a big stadium. We know this. We've been. Heck, we were there when College Station and Smithson Valley played.
It's a great field.
Yeah, there last year. Basically,
The
he said
field.
the big thing's going to be minimizing the turnovers. That might seem kind of simple. I mean, that's kind of something all coaches talk about. But in a game like this, you've kind of got to be you don't want to say perfect, but you got to really to give yourself a chance. You got to be mistake free, and that's the biggest thing. And I talked to Derek Ramsey, the punter, wide receiver they got over there at Bryan as well, and he kind of said the same thing. He actually did say, hey, we kind of have to be perfect if we want to have a shot here. I mean, you line up against a good team like that. I think Andrew was saying, they have a bunch of D1 commits at Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a tall task, like you said, but, I mean, Bryan's, they've been playing well. I think they can keep it a competitive game for, heck, did we all think, we all know what they did against Temple. 18 years? That's pretty good that's a pretty good tall task already for your first district win. Then you beat Cove in overtime. So, Bryan's, they've had some pretty good games here. I guess we'll just have to see kind of what they can do. Not going to be easy, but I think they can keep it competitive.
Yeah, Weiss has definitely emerged as the favorite in this district. So, kind of feels like Brian's playing with a little bit of house money, right?
Yeah.
Weiss is the favorite, but if Brian goes and wins, that would be just a huge win for the Vikings, of course.
I feel like the last couple of weeks as well. I know I like that you mentioned the Temple game and you mentioned the Copper's Cove, and also the fact they're all coming off a bye. So they've gotten down the emotions. The past couple weeks have been really big. They've had a whole week to simmer in it, and now I feel like they'll be ready to go once the lights shine bright.
A&M Consolidated, they host Leander on homecoming. They rolled past Pflugerville Hendrickson last week. Big game from Tyler Poling, who's stepped in as the starting quarterback now. 12-16, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns. Leander looks like the worst team in this district, with all due respect to them. I think the Tigers are going to have their way this Friday.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of a reason they picked this one as homecoming. They know they'll put on a good show. They've kept it rolling. I think this was last week. I think it's fair to say last week was probably the first week where we probably came away saying, man, the offense looked as good as the defense.
We've been saying for a few weeks now, if that offense can just start clicking.
Yeah.
I mean, Consol can get it rolling because we know that defense is good.
And I think after this, they've got Eastview after Leander.
Yep.
So you put together 3 strong games on offense and defense. They should be in good shape because of after I think Eastview, it's
College Station.
It's College Station. You go into that one with a lot of momentum, but you got to take care of business this week first.
I'm looking forward to this Friday. It's the first time I'm getting to see Consol play in person this season, so definitely looking forward to watching Coach Smith's team and see what the Tigers can do. Speaking of College Station, they're going back to Leander, 3rd time in like 4 weeks. But they're facing Leander Glenn. Hey, the Grizzlies gave College Station like literally all they could handle last year. Was it double overtime?
It was
I think
double
it was.
OT.
It was double overtime.
Was the final.
You know, College Station has struggled to defend the pass, but Leander Glenn is a triple option team. And so, you know, kind of plays into the hands of the Cougars a little bit at least. You know, Andrew, you went out there this week talking with Peyton Cashin, wide receiver. You know, what'd you kind of hear from him and what the Cougars are looking at this week?
Yeah, I think we talked about not only this week, but their mindset as a whole. It's going 1-0 is very important to them, not looking too far ahead. Like you mentioned with last year's game, they didn't pass once. They ran the ball all 57 times. DJ Duggar, which is their star running back, he's going to be there. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be ready to go. I think, honestly, I'd pay attention more to the offense because clearly Glenn did something last season in order to limit the game. And I'm really interested to see if Arrington Maiden will come up to a strong start. And if they can get over they've had a couple lapses this year in the first quarter where they kind of get out to a slow start and they eventually get it going. I'm curious how they start because if not, if they get to bad starts and Glenn eats up the time, it could be a problem.
You were at that game last year, right, Jake?
I was, yeah.
That's what I thought.
I remember that one because I believe, man, I was definitely at that one, but I'm trying to remember like why that sticks. I guess maybe it was just because it was double overtime. That's why it sticks in my mind.
If I remember correctly, I think I was covering Consol that night, and your game, like regulation ended before I got to the 4th quarter or something.
Yeah, I think I do remember that.
But by the time it got done with double overtime, the Consol game was almost over.
I think
itself.
that's what it was.
But I mean, that's Leander Glenn. They're gonna control the clock. They're gonna run their offense, and they're gonna make you stop it. That's kind of their MO. Don't really see that a lot at the 5A level. But all right, Rudder. They host Montgomery Lake Creek. I think they're number 4 in 5A Division II.
I believe so.
Needless
Top
to
5.
say, this is going to be a tough one for the Rangers. Andrew, what'd you see from the Rangers last week and kind of that just it seemed like it was kind of a frustrating loss to Huntsville.
And first, before I get into the Rudder performance, I want to give a shout out to Huntsville ISD Stadium. The debut last week of the new stadium. A lot of exciting things around the stadium. It's a really nice view from the press box. They had like trees in the background, and it felt like I was like almost in the middle of the forest, but instead there's like a high school and the stadiums around the forest. So it was a really nice experience to be there. There just wasn't really much of a flow last week against Huntsville offensively. They tried to pull a quarterback. They pulled Billings. They put in Jaquise Martin just to try and get some motivation and try to get some momentum going. It didn't work in their favor. And Coach, I talked to Coach Izar last week, and he just said it's like pulling a starting pitcher and trying to get your reliever in there and hoping that it'll change the complexion of the game. I thought defensively the Rangers were much improved. 17-3, even the 17 felt like it was a lot.
And Huntsville had been putting up some points.
Yeah, Huntsville was putting up points, and they held Huntsville to 7 points through 3 quarters. It was really until like the midway point of the fourth where they were getting anything going. So really just hoping to find some balance and maybe just, getting Billings back on his feet a little bit. That'd really be the key moving forward.
Well, and the defensive performance is noteworthy because Lake Creek can put up points.
Yeah. Yes.
And I feel like if Rudder can just hang in there with them and get to that fourth quarter, it's anyone's game.
It could be.
I mean, case in point, Lake Creek only beat Montgomery by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've picked Lake Creek to win this game, but if Rudder hung in there with them, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it for Rudder. I mean, I think last year's game was like 52-3 against them, but the defense has improved. I mean, I think looking at these last 2 weeks for Rudder, I guess last 3 because they had a bye, but Lamar consolidated, Huntsville game, Andrew 17-3. Yep. These games aren't runaways. Even when Rudder loses, they haven't been runaways just yet. So I think if you can keep it close, I mean, even if you don't come away with the win, you got to feel good about the rest of your district slate because I know we've talked about this. Y'all at least heard me talk a lot about this early in the week.
Yeah.
Because I talked with head coach, Brenham head coach Danny Youngs a little bit about the district, and it was kind of interesting to get his thoughts because he said, hey, Lake Creek's 3-0, Huntsville's 3-0. They've pretty much already clinched playoff spots. And Alex, you mentioned, 3's probably that magic number.
Yep.
So for Rudder, I mean, if they can pull off an upset here, well, you're already to 2. If you can't pull off the upset, you've got Brenham, you've got Montgomery, I believe you've got Randall left.
Yep.
So you've got to win at least 2 of those if you want to stay alive in the playoffs. So they've got 4 games left. I mean, let's see what can happen because, I mean, you need at least 2 of them.
All right, 3 other games to watch this week. Let's start with Brazos Christian going on the road to face Northland Christian. Eagles lost to them last year in overtime, so this is one they've had circled for a while. Convincing win last week over Rice, and Cooper Murr had a big game, 285 yards, 4 touchdowns. This could be the district championship in a 3-team district.
Well, hey, I also want to give a quick shout-out to Isaiah Perkins, man. 2 touchdowns on offense, 2 touchdowns on defense. Brazos Christian looked good against Rice.
Two-way stud.
Yeah. I think, like you mentioned, it's overtime last year. Cooper Murr, man, looked pretty good because he's, only a freshman?
Yeah. It seems like they've moved Jackson Caffey around a little bit, which isn't too surprising. When you got an athlete that good, you want the ball in his hands a lot. And if you have a quarterback that can get it done, which it looks like Cooper can, even though he's probably 14, 15 years old, I mean, do what you got to do to win games. You play to win the game, right?
Hey, if they keep it rolling, I mean, they're gonna have to do it again this week. But overtime last year, and I mean, I don't know necessarily if I would say how we can compare last year's team to this year. It's kind of hard to do things like that. But I would say, I mean, Brazos Christian's got more guys on the team this year. If they took them to the limit last year, well, let's see what happens this year.
Granger at Bremond, Bremond went for 2 in the win over number 4 Chilton last week. Just couldn't get it. Doesn't get any easier this week, though, with Granger on tap.
Well, I'm kind of curious. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little curious because I saw something about Coben Zane and Tank Scott were both out at one point.
Yeah, I think Ben Peck was at the game and posted about that, which if we read our box score, it shows that toward the end they had some other guys stepping up.
Yeah.
So health concerns are definitely there for Bremond, and Coben has been really good filling in this season at quarterback, so that would be a tough loss for them if he couldn't go.
Well, and then, you start an 0-2 in district. I mean, you still got Iola on the slate who's been improved. I think that was still a pretty close game, I think, with Granger last week.
Mm-hmm.
Granger last week for Iola. Milano, I mean, it's not going to get much easier for Bremond. So this is one I don't want to say you need, but you come away with this one, you're 1-1. You feel a whole lot better about the rest of the district than if you're 0-2 and you've got looking at the kind of murderer's row they've got in that district.
the margin for error definitely stays a little bigger when you say. So, all right, taking it home, Corrigan Camden, they're at Leon this week. Funny, Leon also went for 2 last week and didn't get it, lost to Groveton. Leon was picked 3rd in this district behind Corrigan Camden before the season, so this might have some playoff seeding implications down the road.
The Cougs, man. That's all I gotta say. The Cougs, man. I'm kind of high on the Cougs. I think they got a lot of seniors, got a lot of guys coming back. Brock Bumpers is back at quarterback. I think this is one that they hopefully can win. It's at home. I think if you win this, you feel a whole lot better where you're at. And like you mentioned, for playoff seeding implications, you feel pretty dang good if you win this one.
All right, guys. Anything else?
Excited for another week of slate, another week of games.
All right. Well, hey, be sure to check theeagle.com for all of our coverage on high school football here in the Brazos Valley. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Brazos Sports Prepscast. We'll see you next week.